Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to talk about how to use SUMIF, and SUMIF's formula in Google Sheets to calculate travel costs. We have a table of travel expenses here. We have month, we have travel destinations, we have the type of travel, it is solo or family trip, and then we have days of travel in each trip, the total cost, and the cost per day of the trip. So let's get started. First, we'll talk about the SUM formula. We'll use the SUM formula to calculate the total cost of our trip, which is this column. So firstly, we type total cost. And for the formula, we'll type equal sum open blanket, and then we'll select the range to calculate. We are also adding the dollar signs to block the range. Then close blanket, press enter. Now we have the total cost calculate. And let's make it a little bit nicer. We put a grid, we bold the title, and we have the color. So this is the total cost of our trip. Let's move it to the row above. Next, we're going to talk about the SUMIF formula. So the SUMIF formula in Google Sheets allows you to sum values in a range based on specific conditions or criterion. So let's say we want to find out the total cost of family trip and solo trip separately. In here we type family and solo. And for the formula we use equal SUMIF open blanket, and first we choose the criteria range, which is the travel type here. We select the range and then comma, and then we put the criterion. In here is family, so we type family, and lastly is the range to calculate. Remember to put dollar signs to block the ranges, and press enter. Now we have the total cost of family trip calculate, and next we calculate the solo trip. In here we type equal SUMIF open blanket, and then we choose the criteria range, which is this column, and then comma. This time is solo. And lastly, we choose the range to calculate. Also put the dollar signs to block the ranges and press enter. Let's copy and paste the format from above. Now we have the total cost of family trip and solo trip calculated separately. And in here we can make the formula more convenient. Since here we have the same wordings of the criterion and the criteria range, so in here the word family, we can actually choose the range I10, which is also the family. And in solo trip, we can also replace solo to the range I11. And just like this. And lastly, we will talk about the SUMIF formula. The SUMIF formula in Google Sheets allows you to sum values based on multiple conditions or criteria, which means more than one criteria. For example, we want to calculate the total cost of solo trip in July. So let's type solo. And then we want to calculate the cost in July. We type July. And then we type the formula equal SUMIFs open blanket. And firstly, we choose the sum range, which is the total cost. And then we choose the criteria range, which is the travel type from here to there. And for the criterion, we choose solo. And next, we choose the month range, which is here. And now we want to calculate July. We'll type July here. Or we can choose the cell which contains July here. Also put the dollar signs to block the ranges. And then press enter. Copy the format. Now we have the total cost of solo travel in July calculate. And actually, all formulas can be used multiple times in one single formula. For example, here we want to calculate the total cost of solo travel in July and August as well. So we type July plus August. And for the formula, we'll type equal sum ifs, just the same as above. We choose total cost. We choose the travel type is solo travel. And then we choose the month range, which is July for the first part. We type July and close bracket. For the second part of the formula, we type again sum ifs. And then we select the range again. And then we choose the travel type, which is also solo travel. And then we choose the month range. And this time the month we want to calculate is August. So we type August and close bracket. Again, we put dollar signs to block the ranges and press enter. Now we have the total cost of solo travel in July and August calculate. So this is the basic of sum if and sum if formula and how you can use them to calculate based on single criteria or multiple criterias. Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about how to use the average function in Google Sheets. So we have a table of travel expenses here. We have the travel month, the travel destinations, the travel type, either solo or family, days of travel, travel cost, and cost per day. So let's start with the average function. So we want to calculate the average cost of all the travels. In here, we will put average cost as a title. And in the formula, we will type equal average open blanket, and then we select the cost column. Also add the dollar signs to block the range. Now we copy the format from above. So this is the average cost of all the travels. The average formula actually divides the total value by the number of value. So in this case, if we put 0 in the range, the formula will also calculate the zeros as the number of value and makes it not correct. And for now, we'll leave it here and we'll talk about how to fix it. In the second formula, we will talk about average if. So the average if function in Google Sheets calculates the average of a range based on a single condition. So let's remove the 0 first. And let's say we want to calculate the average cost of all solo travels. So let's type average cost solo and copy the format. And for the formula, we will type equal average if open blanket. And first we choose the criteria range, which is the travel type. And then we put a comma. And this time we are calculating the solo as criterion. We type solo. And lastly, we choose the range to calculate. Also put the dollar signs to block the ranges. And press enter. Now we have the average cost of solo travel. And let's do one more example. And this time we want to calculate the average cost of our trip to Spain. So we type average cost Spain. For the formula, we type average if open blanket, and then we choose the range of travel destination and put a comma. Criterion is Spain. And lastly, we choose the range of cost. dollar signs to block the ranges. And enter. Now we have the average cost of our trips to Spain. And next we'll talk about average ifs with an S at the end. So the average ifs function calculates the average of a range based on multiple conditions. And now we want to calculate the average cost of solo trips in July. So in here we type average cost solo July. For the formula, we type average ifs open blanket. And this time we choose the range to calculate first. And then we choose the range of the first criteria, which is the travel type. And then we put a comma and we want to calculate the solo trip. And next we choose the range of the second criteria, which is the travel month. And then we'll put a comma. And it is July. Also put the dollar signs to block the ranges. Then press enter. And now we have the average cost of solo travel in July. So let's go back to the average cost at the beginning. In the beginning of this video, we said that the average formula divides the total value by the number of value, and it will count the zeros as the number of value. So how to solve this? And in this case, we'll use the average if formula. Let's type equal average if open blanket. So we put the cost range as criteria range. Next, we put the criterion, which is bigger than 0, and we have to put a quotation mark for the bigger than 0. And lastly, we choose the range to calculate. Also put the dollar signs to block the ranges. And for the average if function here, we can actually simplify the formula when the condition range and the average range are identical. So in this case, it's the range of cost. And we can remove the later part. The formula will be simplified like this. And this is how we use the average if function to calculate the average cost when there are zeros in the range. So this is a tutorial of how to use the average function in Google Sheets. Hi everyone! In this video we are going to talk about the count function in Google Sheets. So we have a travel expense table here. We have the travel month, the travel destinations, the travel type, either solo or family, the travel days, the cost of each travel, and the cost per day. So let's start with the count formula. The count function counts the number of cells that contains number in a specific range. And one thing to remember for the count function, it only counts numbers, but not string or text or formula in it. So let's say we want to calculate the number of trips. Let's do some formatting. And for the formula, we type equal count open blanket, and then we just select the value as the range. So in here we chose the date column, which are all numbers, which equals to the number of trips here. So if we do count and select non-number range, it will show 0. So remember the count formula only counts the number of cells that contains number. And that's another way to do this. We'll use the count A formula. The count A formula actually counts the number of non-empty cells in a range, which includes cells with text, numbers, or even formulas. So we type equal count A, open blanket, and we just choose the range. Let's try travel destinations. So it will count the number of cells which are non-empty. In this case, it returns 10, which is the same of the number of trips using count. And next we will talk about the COUNTIF formula. So the COUNTIF formula counts the number of cells in a range that meets a single condition. And let's say we want to calculate the number of solo trips here. Let's copy the format from above. and we type equal COUNTIF open blanket, and now we choose the range. And for the COUNTIF formula, so it doesn't matter whether they are text or numbers. We type quotation mark equal solo and close quotation mark. Also put the dollar signs to block the range. Now we have counted the total number of solo trip. Let's use COUNTIF formula for another example. Now we want to count the number of trips with 5 days or above. For the formula, we type equal COUNTIF open blanket, and now we choose the day range as the criteria range, and comma. For the criterion, we type quotation mark bigger equal 5, and quotation mark dollar signs to block the range, and press enter. And now we have counted the number of trips of 5 days or above. Now we will talk about the COUNTIFs formula with an S at the end. So the COUNTIFs formula counts the number of cells that meet multiple criteria. For example, we want to count the total number of solo trip and 5 days or above. For the formula, we type equal COUNTIFs open blanket. And now we'll choose the first criteria range. And it will be the travel type. And then we type solo and use quotation mark for the criterion. Next, we choose the second criteria range, which is the day of travel. For the criterion, we put quotation mark bigger equal 5, and then quotation mark close blanket, dollar signs to block the ranges. Press enter. And let's do one more case with multiple criteria. We'll do solo trip, and this time we also want to calculate the cost per day is equal to 150 or above, and also a trip with 5 days or above. So for the formula, we will use COUNTIFs open blanket, and then we choose the first criteria, which is the travel type, and put quotation mark solo. The second criteria, we will choose the cost per day range. And for the criterion, we will use quotation mark bigger equal 150. And now we have to choose the third criteria, which is the days of travel. And for the criterion, it is bigger equal 5. And dollar signs to block the ranges. Press enter. And it is 2. And lastly, we want to count how many countries we have traveled. In the travel destination column, we have some duplicates, such as Spain and France. We don't want to calculate the duplicates, so we will use this formula, count unique. And this function counts the number of unique values in a specific range and ignoring the duplicates. So let's do it. Type equal count unique, and we just choose the travel destination. And this is it. It will count how many unique values in the range without counting the duplicates. So this is a count function in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about the conditional formatting in Google Sheets. So conditional formatting is a feature allows you to change the formatting of a range of cells based on set conditions and value. So in here we have a product sales table. We have stores, product type, product price, quantity, and sales amount. So let's do some basic formatting here. And first we choose the range we want to apply the format. And then we select conditional formatting. And for the data range here, we just reconfirm the range we have selected. And for the format rule, we choose greater than. For the value box, let's try $500. And let's do some formatting style. Let's choose this color and bold the text. And we press done. And now every sales amount above $500 will be formatted. So let's try less than for the same range. In the format cell, we choose less than. We give $500. Let's do it like this. And now you have all the cells below $500 are formatted into pink. And next, what if we want the whole line to be formatted based on the sales value? So now let's choose the whole range, and then we select conditional formatting. And for the range, let's keep the whole range like this. And for the format cell, instead of greater than, we choose custom formula. And for the formula box, since we want the whole line to be formatted based on the sales value, so let's type a formula here. We type equal F11 greater than 500. Let's put a dollar sign for column F because we want the condition of all cells refer to column F only. And this time let's change the formatting to yellow. Now you can see if the sales value is greater than $500. The whole line will be formatted. And you can also apply multiple conditional format on the same range. So let's change the condition to above 750. Now you can see only 3 lines are formatted. And now we add another rule. So we select the same range. And in the format cell, we also choose custom formula. And this time we type equal F11, which is the first cell of the range. And this time we want to format every cells below $300. Let's change the format to red color. So just like this, all the cells below $300 are now formatted in red. And now let's put one more formatting rule on the range. For example, we also want to format the quantity based on its value. So this time we choose the quantity column as range. And the format rule, we choose greater than or equal to. And let's put 100. Then we change the color to green. And now you can see we have 3 conditional rules on the same range. But wait, there is something not correct. You can see there are 2 cells over 100 and they did not change the formatting. It's because the conditional formatting rule has sequence. In here we first put the conditional format of value about 750 into yellow. Then we have the second rule that's below 300. So in this case, we can move the quantity rule to the top. And just like this, now you can see the quantity over 100 will be formatted into green first, and then run another conditional formatting, which is about 750, and the last one below 300. And the last thing I want to show you is the conditional formatting can be based on text too. So in here, let's choose the store range. And then we add a new rule. The range will be the store. And this time the format rule text is exactly. And in the value box, we type store 4. Let's change the color to purple. And then we press done. Now you can see the store with the name store 4 is formatted into purple. So this is the basic of conditional formatting and how to apply multiple conditional formatting on the same range. Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about the date function in Google Sheets. We will go through the basic of the date function. Later on, we'll go a little deeper into other date formulas. So let's get started. In Google Sheets, months are represented by month numbers. Means January equals to 1 and February equals to 2 and until December equals to 12. Let's type a date here and we use the month formula. The month formula is used to extract the month from a specific date. So for example, here we have 8, means August. We extract the month from this date. Now let's learn the date formula. The date formula in Google Sheets creates a valid date by specifying the year, month, and day. In here we type equal date, and first we put the year. Next we put the month. In here we have to put the month number. For example, let's type 6, and then for the day we type 25. Now we have formatted a valid date format using the date formula. So what if in the month position we type the month name instead of the month number? Let's try to type June, and you can see it gives an error. So to format a date in Google Sheets, we have to use the month number instead of the month name. And next, we will learn about the year, month, and day functions. So these functions are used to extract the year, month, and day from a specified date. So in the year function, let's type equal year, and then we select the date. And now we extract the year from the above date. And let's try month. Let's type equal month, and then the date. We extract 12, which is December. And the day, we type equal date and the date, and we extract 25 from the above date. So how do we extract the month name instead of the month number from a date? We can use the text formula. The text formula can convert a value into a text string. So we type equal text and we select the date. And for the format, we type double quote and then with 4M, closing the quote. Now we extract the month name from the date. And if we type 3M, we can extract the short form of the month name. We can also use the text formula to extract the weekday. We type text and then the date. For format, we type 3D. Now we extract Wednesday. And to extract the year, we type 4Y. And we can extract 2024 from the date. Next, we are going to talk about the date value formula. So let's create some date element in different cells like this. So let's try the date formula. We type equal date, the year, the month, and the day. And we can formulate a date. But what if the month is the month name instead of month number? For example, like this. In this case, we cannot use the date formula because December is a text string. So let's use the date value formula. In here, we type equal date value. And first parameter, we choose the month. And then we type n. Next is the day, and we type n again. Last parameter is year. And now it shows error. Why is that? Now you can see the date we format. It's not a valid date format in Google Sheets. So how to fix it? So let's put a space before the date parameter. We use double quote and space. And after the date parameter, we also insert a space. Now press enter. Now we can formulate a date. You can also use the date value formula to formulate any date. For example, we want to formulate 15th of December. We put the number just like this. And in Google Sheets and Excel, the dates are values that we can use in calculations. For example, we want to calculate the difference between this date and 1st of December. We have 24. We can also do some basic calculations from a date. And just like this. And to find the date before or after a specified date, we can use the eDate formula. So for example, we type eDate, and first we choose date. For the variable, we type 1. So it will give the exact date after 1 month of your specified date. And if you type 3, it will give you the date after 3 months. Let's put the same format. If we input negative number, like -3, it will give you the exact date before 3 months. And next we'll talk about a very useful formula called year month. So the EO month formula is used to find the last day of a month before or after a date. So we type equal EO month, and then we select the date. For the variable, we type 0 as default. So it will give you the last day of your select month. And if we type 1, it will give you the last day of the next month. We can also put negative number to find the last day of the last month. And just like this. Next, we'll talk about the weekdays functions. So we have Sunday to Saturday. And by default in Google Sheets, Sunday equals to 1, Monday equals to 2, and Tuesday equals to 3, and so on until Saturday equals to 7. This is the default setting of the weekday numbers in Google Sheets. So let's say we want to find out what day is Christmas of 2024. So let's type the date here. And we use the formula equal weekday, and we select the date. But type is optional, and by default Sunday equals to 1. And we can just type like this. Now we find 4, means Wednesday. Let's double check. So Christmas Day of 2024 is on Wednesday. So these are some basic and very useful functions in Google Sheets. Hey everyone! Today we are building a dynamic calendar in Google Sheets. When we change the month or year, the calendar will be changed automatically, and we can put something into the calendar or use other functions to put things into the calendar, like task deadlines. So let's get started. We will put the month and year selection on the left and create calendar on the right. Let's type a month here. Then we put the year. For the calendar, let's list out Sunday to Saturday, and we make Sunday to be the first day of a week. Next, we create a date here. It's the first day of the month based on month and year above. And we can use the day value formula to formulate a date. Then we have to find out what day it is using the weekday formula. So it's 2, means it's a Monday. And let's double check. It's 2, Monday. So the first day of July will be here. And now in the first cell of the calendar, let's type this. Date minus the weekday of the first day of our month and plus 1. This will calculate the day of the previous Sunday. Then we simply use plus 1 to find all the days of this week. Now we have the first week in our calendar. Let's change the format. We choose to display the day only. Let's make the cell under a bit larger so we can put something into the days. And for the following weeks in our calendar, we can use plus 1 to fill out all days. Let's copy and paste. Now we have filled out all days for our calendar. Now let's put all rows the same width. Okay, now we are going to style our calendar. Let's make a classic one. You can give your own style if you want. And next, we want to hide all days that are not within the month. We can use conditional formatting. For the format rule, we use custom formula. We type equal month, and then we put the first cell of our calendar. It's D4. and we'll put less than, and then I'll select month. So any dates from previous month will be formatted in this case. Just to make sure to put $signs for absolute referencing here. Now for the formatting, we use color to hide the dates in the background. And it's done. We do the same to hide the dates that are in the next month. And same, we use custom formula in conditional formatting. And this time the formula will use bigger than. Now we hide the dates that are in the next month. And let's apply the conditional formatting to the week above as well. Now it's done. We also want Sunday to be in red, like a normal calendar. That's cool. Let's try different months to test the calendar. Nice. For the month, we can use data validation to make it nicer. Let's select a drop-down. The range will be the month from our previous lesson. And I choose arrow for display type. Okay. Now we can select month from a drop-down list. And we are hiding these days which are used for calculations. And now the dynamic calendar is done. We can put our schedules into the calendar, or use filter function to put data from other lists into our calendar. And this is for today's tutorial. Hey everyone! Today we will talk about the if functions as a powerful function to perform logical operations to check whether a condition is true or false, and then return different results. So here we have a table of student scores. We have student names, scores of subject A and B, and overall scores. The overall scores are basically A plus B. So let's talk about the basic if formula. And firstly, the if formula can check number values. Let's say we want to give a comment good if the overall scores is above 8. So we type equal if, then we give a condition to check whether the overall score is greater than 8. And if it's true, we comment the word good, and if less than or equal to 8, it shows nothing. Now copy and paste the formula. So two scores are comment good here. And next, the if formula can check text strings. So in here, if the previous comment is good, then we'll put a new comment, well done. And if not, it will show nothing. So too good, too well done. The if formula can also check if a cell is empty. We can use the not equal operator to check if the cell is empty. In this case, if not empty, we will comment the word great, otherwise leave it nothing. And now let's change the comment for any score greater or equal to 8. Then it comments good. And if the score is smaller than 8, it will comment OK, and just like this. Next, we'll use more than one if logic in a formula. And this time, if subject A and subject B each have a score at 4 or above, we will give a comment excellent. So let's write it down. For the formula, we'll type out the first condition. If subject A greater or equal to 4, then we put a comma. Now we type another if condition to check if subject B is also greater or equal to 4. And if both conditions matched, we will give an excellent. Otherwise, we will leave it empty. We also need to tell the formula what to do if only the first criteria matched. And it will also be empty. We can actually simplify this formula by using AND. So let's type equal if, and then we'll put AND. Now we put the first condition to check. It is subject A greater or equal to 4, and the second condition, and subject B greater or equal to 4. And then we close the AND formula. Now we put the result if they are true. And we leave it empty if they are false. And just like this, it works the same as the previous formula. The if formula can also use to test Boolean values, which is true or false. And in here we have a simple to-do list. If the tick box is checked, the value will become true, otherwise it remains false. We will use if formula to give comments based on the check boxes. So let's type equal if the cell is true. Then we give a comment done, otherwise it remains empty. And just like this, we can also try the reverse using equal to false for the check boxes. And let's put to do if it's not checked. So these are the basic if functions in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about data validation. Data validation is a function used to control and validate data input to the spreadsheets. For example, we can select from a drop-down list, and we can also use it to validate input dates. And also we will talk about how to create a dependent list using the data validation. So let's get started. Now we have a table. We have group, number of people of each group, and a 10, yes, no, or maybe. Before we put on data validation, we can type whatever we want, like OK to check. So it's not standardized. So we can use data validation, we can data validation, and then we add a rule. Now select the range, and then for the criteria, we choose drop down. We can also select the color of the options, like so. And now we press done. Now we have a drop-down list of yes, no, and maybe, but no other options. So if we try to type something different like OK, and it says it only allows you to input maybe, no, or yes. And it can also be used to validate data based on numbers. For example, here, number of people, we choose data validation. And for the criteria, we choose greater than. For example, we want to ensure the input always greater than 0. Then we put greater than 0. And in the advanced option, if the data is invalid, we can choose reject the input. And it pops up an error that the input is not valid. And the data validation can also use to validate dates. So let's type reply date for each group's reply deadline. And we use data validation. And now for the criteria, we choose date is on or before. And we can input an exact date. Let's say 2024, the last day of October. And if the data is invalid, we reject the input and let's see what happens. Now if we choose a date before the end of October, it's valid. And if we input the date after the end of October, it will show invalid and it does not allow you to input. So let's choose some dates and see. And again, choose November. It's invalid. So this is the data validation to control the input based on text, based on number, and based on days. And we can also use data validation to create a drop-down list based on a range. For example, we have all the group names here. And in the table, we want to create a drop-down list based on this list. So we add a new rule. and we select the range. And now for the criteria, we choose drop down from a range. And now we select the range. The range will be the list, we put it here. And then we press OK. And display style, I always love arrow. And now we can use the drop down list based on the range. We can always make it extendable by putting a wider range. Like this. So if we have a new item added on a list, the drop-down list will be updated automatically. Let's try one more. And here we go. And now let's talk about how to build a dependent list using data validation. So for example, we have a list here. We have, for example, electronics, clothing, kitchen, and in each category, we have a few products. So let's type category here. And then we have the product. And now for the drop-down list one, it will be the category. So let's select this range and use data validation, add rule, and then the range will be this one. And for the criteria, we choose drop down from a range. And for the range, we choose the category. It will eliminate all the duplicates automatically. So let's press OK. And now we have the first drop down list based on the category. And for the second drop down list, for example, for clothing, it will only show the products in clothing. So let's build a helper column. So in here we type list, and in here we'll use the filter formula. Let's filter the product based on the category equals to our selection, like this. And now we have filtered out the products in the clothing category. But in order to make this work, we need to make the filter list to be horizontal, so every line will be filtered based on our selection. So we can use the transpose formula before the filter. Let's type transpose, and now the list is displayed horizontally. So let's copy and paste the formula. So here we go. We have different filtered lists based on our selections. So to create a second drop-down list, and this time the criteria we choose drop-down from a range, and the range will be each individual drop-down list. And to make it extendable, we can just delete the column of the end range. Like this. Now we press OK. So now we have the dependent drop-down list of product based on our selection in the category. And to eliminate the NA, we can use the if-error function at the beginning. So let's copy and paste. Now we have a clean list for our data. And we can also hide the helper column, like this. So this is the data validation function and how to build the dependent list. Hey everyone! So let's talk about the filter formula. The filter formula is used to return a filter set of values from a defined criteria. It has a similar function to the filter in the toolbar, but it's more powerful when working with data. We have a list of game players and the scores here. Let's say it's a video game. And first we can use it to filter number values. Let's filter out players who have a score at least 80. So we type equal filter. First we select the range of data we want to return, then the column with criteria we want to filter. So here's the score. For criteria, we put greater or equal to 80. Now we have a list of people with a score at least 80. So let's try 90. We have Julie and Wesley. Next, we can use it to filter text string. Let's filter out players from New York. In the criteria, we use double quote for the text to filter. We have 3 players. We can also filter by days. Let's say we want to filter the record days from September. And the criteria, we set the range is greater than, and we use the date formula to create a date format. 2024, August 31st. Now we have two players. We can also filter multiple criteria in one formula. For example, we want to find players have at least 80 in score and from New York. We add a second filter after a comma in the formula. Let's do one more example. Let's filter players from New York and have record dates from August. Now we have one player. We can sort the data as well by using the sort formula. Let's change back to the player list with at least 80 in score and sort the list by score. We put sort before the filter formula. And after the filter formula, we put the sort column, which is the second column. And we put 2. If we want it in ascending order, we put true, otherwise we put false. Now the table is sort. Let's try to put true for ascending order. And here we are. We can also use the unique function together to filter our list with unique values only. So we can put unique in front of the filter formula. There's one more useful trick we can use in filter formula. Now we have a list of players with at least 85 in score. We want to arrange the columns in the return. We can use curly brackets to set the orders. For example, to return countries first, then the names, and lastly the score. So here we are. Alright, so these are some basic usage of the filter formula. Hey everyone, let's build a travel planner in Google Sheets to keep track budgets using some functions in our previous tutorials. In this planner, we can keep track our travel budgets and a map to visualize travel expenses of each country. Also a simple packing list and to-do list for the trip. So let's get started. Let's open a new tab and give it a name. I will call it Travel Planner. We put a title here and a year. We make it larger and bold. Let's create a table here to record our trips. From, to, days. Days is for how many days of the trip. Destination, number of people. Budget, actual expense. And the variance. Let's bold the title. Now we put some details into the table. In April, for the days, we'll use a formula. The end date minus the start date plus 1 to include the start date. Destination, Paris. 2 people. Let's estimate a budget per day for each person. You can make your own estimation. And the actual expense is 2,000. The variance will be the actual minus budget. Okay, now we'll create a few more dummy details. Alright, like this. Let's make some layout for the table. We will make a small table to input our upcoming trips. We will copy and paste the heading. And we will input some dummy details to the table. Okay, I think it's cool. Let's format the table now. Next, we will create a packing list with checkboxes to make sure we do not miss anything to pack. We can put number of items, item name, packed. Let's put some icons here. I have a list of items to pack. Let's have the number of items. We make it up to 20. We will put some checkboxes in this column and smaller. Let's make the columns wider. Now it's done. Let's move this table to the bottom. I want to put a map here to visualize my travel expenses. We will insert a chart and change it to GeoChart. We will include the actual expenses into the chart. In the data range, we add the actual expense range. Then we will add some color to this range. We will invert the color in the map. Lower expenses will be green and higher will be in red. That's cool. We will put a date for the planner, and I will just type a date for this video. You can use the today formula here. In here, I will put days left to next trip here to make a countdown. I will use the date of next trip minus today. And in here, I will make a mini to-do list. It will be other things to prepare for the next trip. I will put some items here. For example, and some checkboxes next to it. I will use the COUNTIF formula here to count how many boxes I have checked. So let's see if it works. Okay, great. Also, I will calculate the numbers of items in the list using the COUNTA formula. The same for the packing list. Let's test it. Okay, it works. So now I will create a little summary here combining the two tables. We have the total of complete tasks and all tasks. And also the number of not complete tasks. And I will add a chart to visualize them. I will change it to a donut chart. And I will put it here now. I also want to create a little summary here. Let's move the table here and have some space. Let's type total city traveled, total days traveled, total budget, total expense, variance, and status. It will show over budget or below budget. Let's type in some formula. And in here, we will use the count unique formula to count how many countries in the table. We use sum formula to calculate how many days we have traveled, the total budget, and total expenses. For the variance, we will use actual minus the budget. We will use the if formula to set the status. If the variance is greater than 0, then it will show over budget. Otherwise, it will show below budget. That's great. Let's make the columns wider. Now we can start to style the planner. I will change the background color, hide the grid lines, then I will style the charts. I will change the background. This one I will also remove the borders. I will change the header color of the tables. And this one. And change the chart color. Next, I will use conditional formatting to make some highlights to the text. If over budget, it will be in red. If below budget, it will be in green. I will put some conditional formatting here. If over budget, the whole line will be highlighted in light red. I will also put some conditional formatting to the backing list. If it is checked, the text will be in lighter color and have a strike-through effect. Alright, the plan is complete. We can use it to track our travel budget and prepare for our next trips. So this is a short video to show how to create a simple travel planner in Google Sheets. Hey everyone! We will talk about the XLOOKUP function in Google Sheets. XLOOKUP is a powerful lookup function that is used to find a value in one list and get a matching value from another. It's easier to use and more flexible, and we can customize the error message when there's no matching result. So in here, we have a table of products. Each has an ID, price, and its name. Just like VLOOKUP, we use a search key to retrieve the corresponding result from a data range. Let's use product ID as search key to retrieve the product name. ID is P001. And first, we put the search key. The lookup range is the product ID column. The result range will be the product name. That's what we want to retrieve. For missing value, let's customize it to checked. It will be shown when there's no matching result. The match mode we use 0 for exact match. For search mode, we use 1 to search at the first item from top. We can use -1 to search from the last item. And P001 is notebook. P002, pen. P005, socks. And we can search in the reverse direction from the data. Let's use product name to search for product ID. We search pen and XLOOKUP. Search key is pen, key range, then the result range, which is product ID. We use the word check for error message. Exact match, search from the first item, and we get P002. For socks, P005, water bottle, P006. If we have two items with same product name, search mode 1 will return the first item, P003. If we use -1 for the search mode, it will search from the last item. It will be P005. In this table, we can use XLOOKUP to search results vertically. We use product ID as key to retrieve the name. We select the key range, then the result range. Check. Accept match. And searching from the first item, just like that. We can use Nest XLOOKUP to do a two-way search in vertical and horizontal. Let's say we have a sales table here. We want to retrieve the Q2 sales of coffee mug. The first XLOOKUP will be using coffee mug as search key. Then we choose the search range. For the search result, we put another XLOOKUP formula and use Q2 as the search key. Then we select the lookup range. For result range, we will choose the sales amount. Check is our error message. Accept match and search from the first item is 440. And that's correct. If we change the parameter to Q3, 427. For water bottle, socks. Okay, it works. Alright, so this is the XLOOKUP function in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, today we'll talk about the HLOOKUP in Google Sheets. HLOOKUP is a function to search and retrieve results from a data range, just like VLOOKUP, but horizontally. Let's jump into that. We have a table of students with scores and grades. We want to use student as search key to retrieve their score. We can type HLOOKUP. The search key is student. Then we select the data range. For index, the result range is in the second row of data. And we can use accept match for this case. The score is 0. And we try B, C, and D. And it works. Let's use $sign to block the data range and copy down a few more rows. Okay, cool. Now let's retrieve the grade. It's on the third row of the data. We type 3 for the index, and it works. We can use true to find the approximate match. Let's use score to retrieve the grade. It will return the largest value, less than or equal to the lookup value. And score 51. It returns D. We have to sort the score in the data before doing the VLOOKUP. Since the scores in the data are already in ascending order, we do not need to sort this time. And 76, it returns B. Okay, so this is the HLOOKUP functions in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about the VLOOKUP function in Google Sheets. So VLOOKUP is used to search and retrieve some data from a specific lookup value. It makes data organization easy and efficient. Let's do some VLOOKUP. In here we have a table of product. We have product ID, price, and product name. Let's try to use product ID to retrieve price and name. We highlight this to yellow. This will be a manual key in. Let's say we want to get the data from P001. In the price box, we type the VLOOKUP formula. The first input is our search key, what we use for the search. Use comma to separate each parameter. Then we select the range of data. For index, it is the column number of the result. In this case, it's 2. For the last parameter, we can use true to do approximate search or false to find the exact match. So in here, we use false for exact match. It's $2. Let's search for the product name. VLOOKUP, same for the first part. Then the index is 3 this time. The search column where the product names are. And now we have the exact matches. You can block the range and copy and paste the formula below if you need to do more VLOOKUP. Now let's talk about the true for approximate search. The search will return the largest value less than or equal to the lookup value. We will use the price as the key for this search. And first, we have to sort the data by price to make sure it returns the correct result. Let's say we have $5. I want to find out the closest match below $5. It will return coffee mug, which is equal to the key. Let's try $5.50. Closest is still coffee mug. And $8, the closest match is water bottle, which the price is $7. And 3.5, pen. And VLOOKUP cannot search values in backward direction in the data range. So for example, we use product name to search the product ID. It doesn't work since the index must be 1 or above. Alright, so this is the VLOOKUP function. Hey everyone! Today we'll talk about the array constraint formula in Google Sheets. This function is used to truncate a large range of data. We can also use it to limit the output of a formula. It is often used to constrain the output from the filter function. Here's an example to truncate the data. We have a table of students. We have ID and score as well. We use array constraint to clone the table by controlling the rows and columns output. Let's say 5 rows and 3 columns. Here we are. And now let's only clone the first 3 rows and first 2 columns from the table. We have 3 outputs now. The array constraint function is usually combined with other formulas to use. For example, to use the sort function, let's sort the score in descending order first. Then we can nest the sort function with the array constraint formula. So the input range will be our sort function. Let's return 5 rows and 3 columns. And now we have the top 5 students in the highest scores. Let's return the top 3. And here we go. We often use it with the filter function. Let's say I want to filter out the students who have score above 80. Then we can use array constraint to nest this return to return the result. Let's say I only want to show the first 3 students by ID. Here we are. And we do not want to show the score and also only the first 2. So it's Peter and John. Okay, so this is the array constraint functions in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, let's talk about the indirect function. So the indirect function converts a string into a cell or range reference. String is a sequence of characters used as text. It can be letters, numbers, spaces, and special characters. We can use indirect function to dynamically change the reference without editing the formula itself. Let's do some examples. We have a test result table here. We have test A and test B. Let's talk about referencing to cells. We want to display the result of test A based on cell reference. We type indirect, we put E and concatenate. Let's choose the cell here. So in here, we put 4 and our formula returns 85. So the indirect formula constructs a cell value pointing to cell E4, which is 85 in our table. If we put 3, it returns the cell value of E3. We can use it to construct a sum range by nesting indirect in the sum formula. For example, we can formulate a formula like this: 400. Let's check. It's correct. And we can change the sum formula by changing the referencing cell, just like this. And we can construct a dynamic sum function using indirect. For example, we have a starting row, ending row, and column. We want to calculate results from test A. We nest the indirect in a sum function, and we construct the sum range in the indirect. Let's type out the column now. E, we use double quote to specify a range. Then we concatenate the starting row, so it means E2. Concatenate quote, colon, E, quote. Lastly is the ending row here. Now it calculates the sum of E2 to E6. And we can change the cell reference to dynamically change the sum range. We can change the column by referencing a cell value as well. Just change the E to reference the value here. And now we can change the whole sum range by changing the referencing cell values. We can also use it to construct sheet names. For example, we have two tabs named October and November, and the sales value is on B2 in each tab. We can use indirect to construct the sheet name and return the sales number. We select the cell with month name, concatenate, quote, exclamation mark, quote, and the referencing cell with B2. And here we go. We can now change the cell value to adjust the sheet name in our indirect. Alright, so this is the indirect function in Google Sheets. Hey everyone! We will talk about the sequence function in Google Sheets. So sequence is used to generate number sequence or dynamic grids. It automates repetitive tasks and helps to reduce errors. We will use sequence to generate a list of numbers and then generate a list of dates and time. So first, we use it to generate a list of numbers. We type the formula sequence, then the number of rows we want to generate, then the number of columns. We will start the list from 1 and each number is going to add 1. Now we have generated a list from 1 to 25 with 5 rows and 5 columns. We can generate a reverse list. Let's start from 25 and each number decrease 1. And here we go. Let's go back to ascending order and this time each number to increase by 2. We have a list of odd numbers to 49. The same, you can do it reversely. Okay, now we generate a list of date. We type equal sequence. This time the grid is 5 rows and 7 columns, just like a calendar. And the date, let's start from 1st of December 2024. And each day increased by 1. Let's change the format to date. Now we have a list of dates. We can set each to increase by 2 days. And we can list the dates vertically. 10 rows and 1 column. The start date is 1st of January. And here we go. We can use it to create a list of time. Let's say you want to build a scheduler template. For example, let's list out 12 rows, 1 column. Let's start the scheduler from 10 a.m. for example. And in each slot, increase by 30 minutes. And we change the format to time. And this one, here we have the list. Let's try a 15-minute slot. And there we are. Okay, so this is the sequence function in Google Sheets. Hey everyone, let's talk about the sort function. The sort function is a pretty easy function to rearrange data in orders based on one or multiple columns. We have a table of student with age and score. Now let's sort the table and list from high score to low score. Let's type sort, then we select the whole range of data you want to list out. Then we select the column that we want to sort. It will be the third column, which is score. We want descending order, so here we put false. Now we have a table from high to low score. If we want to sort it from low to high score, we change this to true. We can sort multiple columns as well. Let's sort the score from high to low, then sort the age column from high to low as well. So here we have the table sort in score, then age. We can use sort with the unique formula. For example, this product list has a duplicate entry. We can use the unique function to exclude the duplicates, which is the P003. Then we can sort the price in this result from unique. We add sort to nest the unique formula. And the column to sort will be the second column, which is the price. So here we go. Alright, so this is the sort function. Hey everyone! Today we'll talk about 4 functions to work with data layout in columns and rows. We'll talk about toCol, to turn a range into a single column, and toRow, a function to turn a range into a single row. Then we'll talk about wrapCol and wrapRows, that we can wrap a range of value into specific numbers of columns and rows. We have a list of students and scores. So first, toCol. We will change the student names to a vertical list in a single column. toCol, then the range. The ignore is optional here. We will talk about it in the next example. Now let's put 0. Now we have a vertical list. So the ignore option here is the main difference from the transpose formula. We can choose to ignore blanks and errors when transposing the list. For example, there's a blank in our list. We will use 1 for the ignore option. This will skip the blank cells in the original list. Let's put back Lisa to the list. Now let's talk about toRow. We will use the vertical list from above. We use toRow to turn the vertical list to a horizontal. Just like this. And if we have a blank cell in our list, we can also use ignore to skip the blanks. It's the same as to call. Next, wrap calls function. It turns the data to be displayed in a specified number of columns. So we type wrap calls, then we select the range, which is the student names. Then we want it to be displayed in 3 columns. Here we go. We have an error here. It's because we only have 5 names from a list and cannot utilize all the grids in our columns. We can customize it to display something else. Let's put a question mark. There it is. Or we can leave it blank using a pair of quotes. How about wrap rows? It's a similar function, but this time we specify the number of rows to be displayed. Let's do 3 rows and leave the extra cell empty. Here we go. Alright, so these are some functions that can be used to change the layout of dataset. Hey everyone, we will talk about the Lambda function. Lambda function allows you to create custom and reusable formulas to make the spreadsheets more convenient and easier to maintain. We have a GAM table here with player names and score of GAM A and GAM B. Let's say each score has to be multiplied by 10 to reflect the true score. We will use the Lambda function to demonstrate how we can achieve this. First, we type equal lambda. We need to give a parameter. Let's call it GAM-A. Then we have to give a formula to tell what to do. We will use GAM-A multiplied by 10. After the expression, we need to pass in a value to the parameter, so the formula can calculate. In this case, it's the original score. Now we have to calculate score here. Just copy and paste the formula. Now let's calculate GAM-B. Use lambda, and we name the parameter GAM-B. Then GAM-B multiplied by 10. Pass in the value to the parameter. Here we go. We can pass in 2 parameters into lambda function. Now let's formulate a lambda to calculate the total score. So we type lambda. We have 2 parameters, GAM-A, GAM-B. For the formula expression, it will be GAM-A plus GAM-B. And next, we pass in the values to the parameters, the 2 original scores. And now we have the total. This is how to have multiple parameters in a lambda function. We can also create a custom formula using lambda and save as a new function. Let me show you. We want to calculate the area of circle. We can use the pi formula to have the value of pi. The area formula of circle is pi times radius square. Let's put radius and area. The formula will be calculated based on the radius value we input here. Now we set up our lambda function to calculate. Lambda. We name the parameter radius. The formula will be pi times radius square. Then we pass in a value to the parameter, which is the value of radius here. Here we are. Let's test if it works. Okay. Now we will save this new formula as a function so we can use it in the future. Let's go to Data, Named Function, Add New Function. So in here, We will paste our formula. We have to change the passing value to radius. In the argument placeholder, we will put radius and press enter. And let's name this to circle area. It will be the new formula name. Then we click next and create. So let's try out the new formula. Circle area. You can see it shows up here. And we pass in the value, which is our radius. Okay, it works. We have a new formula called circle area now. We will create one more new formula in this video. We have a score table, and each score range will have a grade. We will input a score here to find out the grade. We use lambda. The parameter is score. Then we use the if formula. I will type out the if logic quickly. Now we have to pass in a value, which is our score. Okay, it works. And we will create a new function to store this formula. Copy the formula. Then we go to named function. Paste the formula here, and we change the value to score. Argument placeholder is our score. Let's name this new formula to be grade score. Next, create. Okay, now we have a new formula. Let's try. Grade score. The parameter is our score here. Alright, it works. Okay, so this is the lambda function and how we can use the named function in Google Sheets to create our own formulas. Hey everyone, we will talk about the text formula. It is a very convenient way to convert numbers into text in a given format. For example, we have a date here. We want to extract each individual part of this date, like year, month, and date. We can use text and then select the range you want to convert. For the format, we can use for-y. If you want 2 digits, we can use 2y for the format. To extract the month, we can type text, and the format will be 3m. If we want the full name, we can use 4m. For the day, we can use dd. If we use 3d, we will have the short form of the day of the week. If we use 4d, it will show the full name. We can use it to convert the format of time. We will use text, the range, and the format will be hour, minute, AM, PM. We will have the time in a 12-hour format. We have the 24-hour format. We can just remove the AM, PM. We can add text to the format as well. We can type text, the range, for the format. Let's add an emoji and the number format. Hashtags are similar to 0, but will not force display if they are 0. Here we have the text convert. But we can only add one character by using this method. For example, we want to put income and then the numbering format. It does not work. Alright, so this is the text formula. Hey everyone, We will talk about how to handle errors in Google Sheets. One of the most commonly used formulas to handle errors is the if-error formula. It is a function that lets us replace errors with custom outputs in our formula and make other calculation formulas work and have a cleaner spreadsheet. An is-error is a function to let us examine a value and return a Boolean value, whether it's true or false. We will dive into that later. We will talk about the if-error function first. We have a table of students and scores of test A, and we have another table of test B. So first, we want to look up the score of test B in this table. There is a score showing NA, which means error. Let's calculate the total score also. Now we can see there's a score showing error, and its total is also in error, because in test B, there is an error in Lisa's score. In this case, we can use the if-error formula to wrap up our VLOOKUP and give a custom output for the error. Let's say we will use 0 to replace any errors in our lookup. Now it shows 0 for test B for Lisa, and the total is now calculated correctly as well. We can also use an empty cell to replace the error, just like this. We can also put other text such as check for the error. And next, we'll talk about the is-error function. It is used to test if a value is an error and return a Boolean value. For example, we have is-error to examine the total score. It will return true if it is an error. We can wrap the is-error function in an if formula. For example, if it is an error, it's true. If it's not an error, it will return has score. And here we are. Alright, so this is how to handle errors in Google Sheets.